So here we go. We got more, ladies and gentlemen. If you thought that they were defrauding you and lying about the president, then you thought right. From the post-millennial, January 6th committee hid evidence that Trump called for 10,000 National Guard troops to handle unrest. Suppressed transcript. Yeah, so this testimony's coming out now, and we're learning they lied about everything because, like Liz Cheney is just so awful. I'm so glad that her career just imploded. She's so awful. Here we go. Post-millennial says, transcripts of an interview with President Trump's former White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Anthony Ornato, have been released, which provided evidence the former president took steps to bring 10,000 troops to D.C. on January 6th to protect the Capitol. The evidence has never been released by former rep and January 6th Select Committee Chair, Vice Chair Liz Cheney, and the J6 Select Committee, even though Cheney was present for the interview. Following a report from Molly Hemingway at the Federalist, Committee on House Administration Subcommittee on Oversight Chairman Barry Loudermilk released the transcribed interview with Ornato. Loudermilk told Hemingway, the former J6 Select Committee apparently withheld Mr. Ornato's critical witness testimony from the American people because it contradicted their predetermined narrative. Mr. Ornato's testimony proves what Mr. Meadows has said all along. Trump did in fact offer 10,000 National Guard troops to secure the U.S. Capitol, which was turned down, he continued. This is just one example of important information the former Select Committee hid from the public because it contradicted what they wanted the American people to believe. And this is exactly why my investigation is committed to uncovering all the facts, no matter the outcome. And they impeached Trump over January 6th, while knowing Trump actually called for National Guard to come in to help secure all of this. They lied about everything.
It's a charade. It's all a charade.
I don't know what else is there. Like at a certain point, it's kind of just like, yeah, we all know.
I just wish the mainstream media would be like, we did lie. Or they'd be like, new testimony that we suppressed says this.
And so much of it, remember from the original J6 committee, they destroyed a lot of the source information, that like deposition videos and all the rest. So it may be like that MK Ultra, right? They lied about it, and then decades later stuff gets declassified, but then you realize they like try to burn and destroy many documents. So you think, wait a second, what we do know through the documents that did come out, this is really bad.
Right.
But imagine what was burned and destroyed, how much worse. So maybe a similar dynamic could be playing out here, is that this is, a nice revelation. We knew it all along, but it's nice to see the evidence come out. But who knows what we're not going to see from the original J6 committee. That's
like videos of who put the pipe bomb there.
This reminds me of that Family Guy joke where they're watching the news and he's like, a plane narrowly, had an emergency landing. Everyone was okay. But here's what would have what it would have looked like if the plane crashed into a school, and here's what it would have looked like if it crashed into a school for the deaf, and here's what it would have looked like if a plane crashed into a school for bunnies. Like, that's what the news does. They just...
Yeah.
I can't wait to start reporting like that. It's going to be so interesting and unhinged.
Here's what we should do. We should make like a spoof news website where it's not... I got an idea. The Babylon Bee is obviously fake. It's meant to be jokes. And then Not the Bee is stories that are ridiculous that are actually true. I think the hybrid is you make one that always has fake headlines and it's reporting real stories in really, really awful ways. Like... Donald Trump calls for the destruction of the United States and the end of democracy, we claim falsely in this article. So it's like the first portion, and then on Twitter, it'll go ...
Right.
And then when you click it, it says, we made up for the sake of this headline to get you to click it.
It's like,
so
just kidding.
It's telling you the truth, but the first half of the headline is fake, and the rest is the admission that we made it up.
That's how I felt when I was tweeting about the State of the Union. The first part is like, this is the State of the Union, the president's addressing the nation. But when the camera pans in closely, you realize that President Biden is really just a possum trapped in a trash can, this whole time. So I feel like that's just how it is.
Yeah, but if there was like a really old possum trapped in a trash can and it was like partially blind and sputtering, and you wouldn't really feel threatened by it.
No.
You'd be grossed out.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I don't feel threatened by Biden. I feel threatened by everyone around him.
And then you know what happens is like you're trying to get it out of the trash.
Right
you're going to take the garbage out, and then there's like an old possum in there and it's sputtering, and you're like poking with a stick, and then it jumps out, but now it's like your kid's there and they start sniffing your kid, and then you're like, oh geez, it's just nasty. Like, you don't worry, it's got no teeth.
I imagine
it's gumming you.
It's hissing. It's hissing at you a lot though, and it smells like urine.
Yeah.
Which is probably how Biden was for the last
I'd be willing to bet
years.
that Biden does not smell good.
Definitely not. After what, like we've heard lots of reports. Who knows if they're true now? Like what Tucker
Sources
was,
close
like what
to
Alex
Tim
Jones
Pool
was saying.
say,
Yeah.
sources personally sniffed Joe Biden.
Sources close to President Joe Biden's bowel movement suggest he pooped his pants when he was in Italy. Was that where it was? He was in Italy?
I forget where that was.
And then like he had a meeting he missed or something, or he was late, and then he showed up wearing a different outfit. And it was like
rough.
he must have soiled himself.
It's crazy.
I think the thing is, if we had a possum, like a rabbit, even an old or blind possum for president, it would be slightly more scary because it would be a little unpredictable, especially like nervous feral animals. You don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Whereas like, but Joe Biden doesn't really know what he's going to do, but not in like a anything could happen, knives out kind of way. Much more in a like, we're all lost and the ship seems to be sinking kind of way.
Yeah. I think he's just a sad old man, you know, like a possum who hasn't eaten in a while. And he's not dangerous himself. It's just everyone who's keeping him up there. Like it's abusive. You know, like everyone knows the possum's trapped in the trash can, but they're leaving him there.
I think Biden wants to stay there. I mean, I think that's why he is running for another term. If he really didn't want to, no one could make him.
Yeah.
I mean, although who knows what they know.
I think they could.
You have thoughts on this?
Do you think plot twist on this? Because you know a lot of people were saying that maybe Governor Gavin Newsom, California's governor, would be swapped out for Joe Biden at some point.
America's shiny possum.
But yes, with the air gel, yes. But do you think that, you know, the powers that be, however you want to term them, that they've gotten pretty used to having the puppet? Because imagine how much they can get away with when the guy who's supposed to be in charge doesn't really have a brain of his own.
I don't think there's
Whereas
anyone behind
Newsom
Biden.
would. You don't think so?
Everybody keeps arguing that like Obama or someone is behind Biden, and I'm like, no, it'd be cohesive. If Biden really was a
Could
puppet,
be disparate interest groups, though.
right? In which case, there's no puppet master.
True, but it would be yes and no, like not specific or direct, but like indirect, that there's multiple groups that are more powerful than.
Unless the puppet master's plan is to make Biden sputter out of control and just like fizzle out so Trump wins. I just don't see it. I certainly think there are interests that lobby the president.
Yes, like
but
self-interested people acting self-interestedly, like having a guy like him in power because they have more room.
I think Democrats don't want to lose. Mm-hmm. The only plan they had was Joe Biden. They had ballot harvesting plans because they hate Trump. But we're looking at a chicken with its head cut off. And I mean that like think about this in the literal sense, like a zombie with no brain. It's moving around, it's animate, but there's no brain. And so Biden gets propped up by all of these people who go out ballot harvesting, all these activist groups, they want him to win, disparate special interests. But now that he's president, there's nothing. I think Afghanistan is the best example of there being no puppet master. I think Biden was in the Situation Room and he was like, we gotta get out of the Air Force Base. What are we doing, huh? And then they're just like, you want us to leave Bagram? Like, get out. Okay. And then they're like, okay. And then they abandon the Air Force Base in the middle of the night with no plan, let random Afghanis storm into it, dropping all air support. Afghani security forces abandon their helicopters, run for the hills. Like if Obama was puppeteering Biden, this would not have happened unless they're intentionally burning the country down.
So I think on something like that, for example, it would kind of go back to the disparate interest groups, because I think a lot of them thought, well, you know, Biden's saying what he needs to say to get the left to come to heel. But at the same time, I think the Pentagon slow walked it because I don't think they thought he actually would go through with it. So I think that's where a lot of that,
well, there's no puppet master, though. If Biden ultimately had, I think Biden said garbled, nonsensical BS. People couldn't figure out what his plan actually was or what he was saying. And then once he gets up and leaves the room, they all look at each other like, what do we do?
True, and
then they just did random things.
I don't know if I can't speak to a puppet master. I do believe there's a lot of dark interests involved behind Biden. Yes. And I think that they are intentionally trying to burn the country down. And I also think perhaps, this is just a thought, that Afghan withdrawal was just a sloppy deal done by Biden, but with behind the scenes possibly to reallocate sources to Ukraine.
Like if their plan is to get Trump elected, then their plan is working.
Right. I think they like Trump in power because then they could just go crazy in the media apparatus and everywhere else. Like the whole world shut down for Trump.
Actually, a fair point is if Trump wins, the country will not implode. And the Democrats get to pretend like it's the apocalypse and use it to gain power.
Yep. Yes.
Whereas I think if like Biden were to win again, the country might actually implode because Trump actually has the popular polls
they
right now.
Know things are too bad for them to fix. They're like, look, we're going to bring Trump in. He's going to fix some stuff, but we're going to be mad about it. We'll come back and mess it up later.
They're saying if Joe Biden wins, the 55 to 56% of people polled consistently approve of Trump will lose their minds and it will shatter confidence. If Trump wins, then you're going to have these people who are upset over Biden feel like we can actually affect change if we choose to. The Trump supporters will say, wow, we actually did it. We're winning. But instead of the left going out and just civil war, they go out and they say the apocalypse has begun, quick, give us money, and they use it to campaign and gain institutional power, or try to.
It's the ascension of the victim class. The people who love the victimhood currency.
They loved it when Trump was president.
They loved
so
it.
Maybe their strategy right now is, okay, what's our plan for when Trump wins, as opposed to how do we stop Trump? They maybe have resigned themselves to he's going to win. What can we do? And they're coming up with effective ways to raise money, gain influence, and gain institutions when Trump does become president.
I think that's
like look at Russiagate. So they end up they'll sabotage him. They want crime to be high. They want inflation to be high. They want there to be a pandemic and war. I wouldn't be surprised if they start a war and then say, here you go, Trump, good luck.
Yeah, for real.
Is that why there's all those headlines, perhaps, like going to your point on NBC will say basically that the military has plans in place that should Trump assume office once again as commander-in-chief, that basically they're not going to listen to him. And you know, we saw that with Syria. He said we need to pull out, and then they lied to him about the numbers and troop levels and the rest.
They lied to us.
Well, exactly. And they lied to him directly. There was that one diplomat, Jeffries, I believe his name was, for defense, when like a year or two later, he was basically crowing about it, saying, oh, Trump thought there were this many troops. There were actually another different number, and we just lied. And, you know, it's wonderful because we're saving democracy, but it's true. We're seeing that a lot with some of the Ukraine funding. Senator J.D. Vance was saying, you know, if this passes the way it's written, this actually could hamstring President Trump and set him up for a third impeachment trial. Same thing with the border sellout deal, that a lot of it seems to be designed to constrict Trump should he assume office once again. So, you know, there could be some credence to that's why we're starting to see more and more of those type stories seeded in the, you know, the media, that should he get into office, we already have these guardrails in place.
Right. They're preparing for maybe what they might think is inevitable right now. And so they have to hamstring Trump as much as possible.
Well, they have to save CNN and MSNBC somehow, right? They have to drive clicks to those websites. They have to have something. We got to let Trump be the president in order for them to survive, right?
So what you're saying is that voting in Trump again will actually make them build back better.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. That's the Maoist idea: is knock it all down, create chaos, and then be that fist, you know, that fist of power that solves everything. You know?
It's all the
fist, right?
liberal journalists at
fist.
failing institutions that actually are like secretly like, please bring back Trump,
Right.
please bring back.
Bands like Rage Against the Machine are actually secretly hoping for Trump again, so they can
We've got
Rage
nothing else to do.
Yeah, screw those people.
Yeah,
Are you? Do you have any predictions for who Trump's VP pick would be?
Oh lordy. I do stay out of the prediction game. I know that's a terrible answer.
Okay.
I know that's horrible. That's not very. Yeah. I don't know. I have ideas on who I don't want it to be.
Okay, who's that?
South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. She's good on some stuff, but failed miserably on COVID. She's failed miserably on freedom of speech issues in some areas. So I'm not a big fan.
And women's sports too, wasn't there?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the other big one. You're so right on that one. So it seems and then there's the other issue. Who was reporting on it? Maybe Greg Price, but the land issue, that there's a lot of farmers and they're having some, I don't know if it's a state agency or what group, or it's an environmental group coming onto their farms and dictating to them, destroying crops, just kind of standing wherever they want, saying it's not your land anyways anymore. And the guy could say, it's been in my family 5 generations. And they say, well, it's not going to be anytime soon. We have to survey, we have to do this and that. And it seems she's not doing a whole lot
Is it
about
like eminent domain situations?
I wish I remembered more details. So I think it was Greg Price who was reporting a lot on it. So I'd have to go back through him and then branch out from there on looking into it. But yeah, so someone like her, just because she's a woman and pretty, doesn't mean that we should go with the whole, you know, because what we joke about with Biden and Ketanji Brown Jackson, the rest, the affirmative action, when it's obvious when he says, I'm going to pick based on these characteristics alone. Same thing with Newsom filling the late Senator Dianne Feinstein's seat. But then we Republicans, and we do this every time, we Republicans, then we talk like the left and we act like the left, but in a, you know, what we think is we stamp the elephant on it. Now it's good.
I think the response to the State of the Union tells you exactly who it's going to be. They want a suburban housewife to be the VP.
Yeah.
Because that's the demographic they think they need to win, and they do need to win. So Kristi Noem,
She is that.
probably going to be the
After
pick.
I say this now, it's going to be like,
Well, because she's like a middle-aged white woman
yes.
who's going to do the rallies in the suburban areas of, like, she's going to go to Loudoun County, and she's going to act like a suburban mom, you know? And
I kept thinking Tulsi. It's
So I think
to what
Tulsi's
you're
great.
saying. But Tulsi offers a different demographic than Noem would to Trump.
Kristi Noem going into these like suburban housewife areas where Trump has trouble. And they're going to ask questions like, why should we vote for a Trump ticket? The man's awful. And then Kristi Noem's going to do the catty, smirk and a wink and, I'll be there and pour me a glass of wine or some really stereotypical insulting thing to wine moms. But like, we'll convince them. So
yeah. Yeah, I don't
that,
know.
maybe.
Who else is Haley on your list of non-people?
Well, obviously, it goes without saying.
Just have to make sure.
That would be the biggest plot twist of 2024.
No, she's Biden's VP pick.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Or Dean Phillips, if she's interested in the unity ticket.
What if Biden announces that Harris will not be joining him for a second term, and that Nikki Haley and Biden met to form a unity ticket?
Wow.
That's a nightmare.
That might be one of their
I feel like
only
they would
plays
have
to actually
misread the country at that
win.
point.
No, it's basically uniparty versus anti-establishment.
Yeah.
They're basically saying if you're a Democrat or a conservative and you're concerned about Trumpism, vote the unity ticket. And you're going to get a lot of really dumb people being like, wow, a Democrat and Republican came together.
Mitch McConnell will canvas from the grave.
There was a moment when Kristen Sinema announced that she wasn't going to run for re-election as an independent in Arizona that I was like, do you have a spot in the Biden
Oh, that's right.
administration?
That's right.
But she said no to that, didn't she?
I think she did. It was
They've
when,
said
when
no
they
before
first
to
bring
these
it, like,
things.
just thinking about it. Or we didn't even, I don't know how much you guys talked about it, but I feel like I haven't talked enough about the fact that Romney and Joe Manchin were sitting together at the State of the Union. Because Manchin had thrown around the idea that maybe Romney would be his VP pick, also on a similar moderate uniparty ticket. Which
Not
maybe, again, they're just like, they're soft launching their relationship over there. They're just seeing what you think.
Yeah. Look at us, little brunch buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, we can sit together.
I'm
It's
good.
fine. No, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I totally get what you mean by not wanting to make too many predictions.
But what about Tulsi?
Yeah, she's a suburban mom, isn't she? She's like a badass.
She's
Wasn't
too
she a med?
glamorous
think
to be
she's
a
a-
suburban mom.
I don't think she's a mom.
But she's at the same
I'm not
age.
sure.
I'm just saying, and
Yeah.
she's a combat medic.
I mean, there's really cool things about her, and there's other things that I think I disagree with her on.
Was she
But
still
she's also
anti-2A?
seems malleable, and she's changed a lot over the past few years. So I don't really know where she's at right now on certain things, like
On 2A
Second
in particular?
Second Amendment,
Yeah.
and other things like that, gender ideology. I'm not sure.
I feel like we just need him to. I feel like the best play, maybe hypothetically, would be if Trump picks a woman who is extremely outspoken about closing the border, because that's his bread and butter issue. That's really important.
That would have been
But that's why
Kerry.
they had.
I don't think it's.
It won't be Kerry.
That's
don't
why
think
they
it's
had the
Kerry.
response to the State of the Union that they did. What's her name? Was it
Katie Britt.
Katie Britt
right.
out of Alabama, yeah.
Right. So it was
But
like in a
she's-
kitchen. They were desperately being like, the suburban moms says vote Trump.
But I feel like, I mean, again, I don't know enough about her voting record, but I think that there
He's not gonna
probably
pick her.
are other female candidates who are stronger. And even Kristi Noem says something stuff, but and she's deployed National Guard to the border and stuff, but I just feel like it's not, you don't associate her with it, whereas you need someone that people are like, oh yeah, she's strong on the border.
For someone else with heels, there's always DeSantis. Sorry, that was my dad joke for the night. Please forgive me, everybody. I'm done.
Are you done though? Because
No.
you're still a dad,
No,
so I
yeah.
expect that this will keep going for the
It'll
rest
go
of
on.
forever.
Forever.
Yeah. Do you have any other predictions for going into November?
Are we going to make it to the election, Kara? This is what we need to know. These are the
sources
tough questions.
feel scarce.
look.
Final poll is
This-
Zelensky.
So this weekend I was I found myself once again at MGM playing poker with the boys, and I get everybody asking me these questions, and they're just like, "Who's Trump going to pick for his VP?" I have no idea. And they were like, "What's going to happen with the election? Who's going to?" I have no idea. And they were like, "I thought like they were telling me that you hosted this show," and I'm like, "No one has any idea what is going on right now. None of it makes sense.
I do. I'm a psychic
None of it
journalist.
tracks
That's right.
historically.
Right.
Like people are like, we're in Weimar Germany, we're in pre-Spain Civil War, like. I don't even know what to tell you guys. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.